Okay, so I want to discuss an article. I read something. Um, and if I read something, I'm going to brag about reading something. And
Yeah.
that's what this whole segment is. I read an article. But no, this is an article by Bud Elliott over at 24/7. I believe Bud Elliott used to be at SB Nation. I've been following Bud Elliott for a while. He's in my opinion, one of the finest national recruiting minds out there. And I think he thinks about recruiting in a really interesting way. He's got a piece up on on 24/7.
Not on TexasFootball.com.
No, TexasFootball.com. I want to be very clear about that. 247.com. The headline is why FBS college teams signed 400 fewer recruits than normal in 2021. So he crunched the numbers, and this is something we do in our summer edition of the magazine, right? Well, I do recruiting between the recruiting between the numbers, and where I dive in and I take a look at the FBS signing classes for every team in the nation, and we break it down. We try to look at trend lines, how teams in the state of Texas do, or how teams in the state of Texas do. Unique things like who recruits the most, who puts out what state puts out the most offensive linemen, right? And what state puts out the most running backs. Also, who
Australian kickers.
Who does most of their recruiting in state, right? Things like that. Those types of things. We break down all the recruiting numbers, news and notes. And that's something I have to work on coming up here in a little bit. Oh, it's a lot left. But the article that Bud Elliott wrote for 24/7 belies a bigger fact, which is that FBS college football teams did not sign as many high school prospects as they normally did. Significantly fewer. 400 fewer. And that has a bunch of different ripple effects. Let's first talk about the why. I think the why is pretty clear, and it's twofold. One, the additional blanket year of eligibility for all college football players that the NCAA gave. They said, no matter if you play 0 games, no matter if you play, I guess Alabama could have, or I don't know. Did anybody play more than like 13 games?
No.
Okay. So it didn't matter if you played 0 games, 13 games, whatever. 2020 is a mulligan. Everyone gets an extra year of eligibility regardless of how many games you played. I thought that was the right move by the NCAA, in my opinion. I thought that was the most equitable to the most number of players, and it did not put the pressure on these football programs to go out there and play games if they did not feel it was safe.
Right.
Okay, so there's that. That's part of it. The other part of it, I think, and this is a kind of a perfect storm here, is the transfer portal. That the increase in the transfer portal and the ability of the the NCAA coming out and basically saying that you can transfer basically freely, more or less. That is, I think, becoming a much more attractive offer.
Yes.
For a lot of teams. And he's even got a quote in here. He talked to one staffer. Quote, "If it is a borderline recruit for us, we'd rather take a transfer who we know can cut it physically at the college level." End quote.
Yeah.
And I think that that's something worth mentioning is you have these guys who are in the transfer portal. Obviously, you have most of them, you have some college tape on them, or you know that some other program thinks that they are an FBS caliber kid. They go in the portal. You can grab them. Why would you do that instead of if you have a high school kid that you think might be good but maybe a bust? This seems like the more sure thing.
Well, and that to me seems like the perfect scenario, and you can use 2 Texas schools that just solely based off of records and how the programs went last year. It's one of those things for a recruit like that knows that they're good enough to get there but maybe just didn't get the offer right off the bat. Go to the small college. And instead of maybe going to a UTEP or a Rice that's been really struggling, you go to the small college and then turn around and ball out and get the offer from SMU that's been on the up and up and always takes transfers.
So here's the other thing about this, okay? I think there's another element to this that I think is a two-way street, which is evaluation. Plain and simple, college football programs were not able to evaluate at the same level over the course of the last 11 months.
Even recruiters, like guys like Powers, it was different
whether,
for them.
Whether you work for a university or you work for a next level
athlete, yeah.
You have not been able to go out there and get your eyes on kids in the same way that you normally do. And so, on one hand, that means that a lot of these players, I think, fall into that borderline category that staffer was talking about, of like, why wouldn't we just take a transfer when we can do that? I think that's most stark when you look at a team like Texas State, who signed 0 high school football players. I think that they are making a bet that they are able to go out there and win with these transfers and make the program appealing, use this and get this immediate shot in the arm to to what they believe is their process. So look, here's the thing about that though. Obviously, when you get to the FBS level, there's really, really strict scholarship rules and stuff like that. And I want to be very clear that there's strict scholarship rules at every level of football. But as you go down the list as you go down the down the levels, right, to FCS, to Division II, Division III, you do have a little bit more scholarship flexibility. A little bit, you can take on a few more players, right? And so these 400 FBS there were not when this article says that there were 400 fewer recruits signed by FBS college football teams in 2021. There were not suddenly 400 fewer FBS caliber players.
No, absolutely not.
Out there in the nation. Okay? There weren't.
Mm-mm.
And they had to go somewhere, right? And a lot of these guys you are starting to see pop up. Some of them are ending up, I think, guys like C.J. Rogers, right, who is the quarterback from Argyle. He's going to be a walk-on at Baylor. You're having some of those, and those obviously don't count as signees, right? Those are preferred walk-ons. He's going to walk on there. You've got some of those. You're also going to have, go take a look at the recruiting classes that Sam Houston State and Stephen F. Austin and West Texas A&M, right? And Abilene Christian, and Incarnate Word, and Texas Lutheran, and Southwestern. Go look at the signing classes that they're bringing in, because what you'll notice, I think, if you have a keen eye and you understand kind of what you're looking at, what you'll notice is there's a noticeable bump in quality in these signing classes. That it is a trickle down effect that. Okay, you're not getting this scholarship offer from, Texas State. You thought you were getting this scholarship offer from Texas State. It doesn't come along. Well, then you end up maybe going, I'm picking a school at random. You end up going to, McMurray. Yeah. Right? You decide, I'm going to go play at McMurray instead and ball out and be the star there. Every level, those 400 players had to go somewhere. And by the way, those 400 players are that maybe, sake of argument, let's say those 400 FBS players that didn't get signed by FBS teams, let's say they go down and they're playing at the FCS level now. Well, those 400 FCS quality players, they got to go somewhere too. Right. And so they're going down to Division II, and then and so on and so forth. What I am saying is that I think that there is a really real chance that over the next couple of years, I would say for the 2021 fall season and the 2022 fall season, I think there is a real chance that you see a significant increase in talent level and in quality of football that you see at that level, because there's going to be this talent infusion that they simply have not had in the past by virtue of the circumstances that came around with the COVID-19 pandemic.
And it makes me wonder, too, if you want to take it a step further and say that since a lot of these programs are ending up playing in the spring, there's going to be a larger fan base, I feel like, that also boosts from small college football, because it's a casual fan like us, even though we work in it. But still, it's like, are you likely to watch a McMurray football game in the normal season when everything
Right.
else is going on? To be honest, probably not. But am I going to sit down and watch it in the depths of March because there's nothing else going on? So it's one of those things. I feel like you look at that, more people start watching it. If they're seeing this product on the field be better than it ever has been, then it's one of those things where it's like, oh, hey,
Yes.
there's good players. I could go
I think
play
that's-
against good people.
I think that's right.
and then
I
the
think-
train continues.
And I think that what you're going to see is, especially these teams that are playing in the fall, or I'm sorry, playing in the spring. Tarleton plays Saturday, I think, on Fox Sports Southwest Plus.
Yes.
Tarleton plays this Saturday. That is going to be, like, in normal circumstances, the Tarleton game would be swallowed whole by the entirety of college football happening. Right?
It wouldn't even be broadcast.
Because Notre Dame's playing whoever, right? And everybody's paying attention to that game. Instead, the focus is going to be on there, and I think you're right. There's going to be more eyeballs on the small college world. Again, nobody's saying the pandemic is a good thing.
No.
What I am saying is I think that in a variety of ways, from the talent level and from the exposure level, as you mentioned, I think that you could see a boost in the small college football world under the FBS level. FCS on down, I think you could see a boost simply because of some circumstances that have arisen because of.
It's a glass half full situation. The pandemic sucks. The official standpoint of Dave Campbell's 2 thumbs down. But if you want to look at anything on a positive side, this is definitely one of them.
Right. So, it's a great article. I highly recommend it. It's Bud Elliott. He wrote, Why FBS College Football Teams Signed 400 Fewer Recruits Than Normal in 2021.